Hi, this is Mike Jensen, and I want to show you how to do an HDR panorama. If you've ever shown up on a site and you see this huge big vista and you want to capture it all rather than just the part that shows up in your frame, even if you're shooting a wide angle lens, this is the best way to go. On your screen is a shot that I shot with my 24-70 lens, which did a great job, but there's so much more to show you. And the other thing is, this image looks kind of flat. It only reflects a little bit of the vibrant colors in the image. You've got a bit of a flat sky, which I think we can bring out, and we can bring out more of the colors in the fall colors in the aspen trees. This was taken outside of Crested Butte on Kebler Pass, and it's a real well-known area to go to shoot fall colors in late September. So what I've done is I've created a collection of single images from a panorama. So once I've done all of that, I moved them into a collection in Lightroom, by the way. It's a lot easier to see this Kebler Pass pano. Just move all of your images over into a collection, and then you just select them all. And I just do it really easy. Right click, you go to Photo Merge, HDR Panorama, and it brings up a preview of what it might look like. Now you can see, even though I was on a tripod, and I've done this a number of times, I'm still missing some parts of the scene, which is okay, because I don't want all the sky and I don't want all the foreground. I just want enough to really give the impact and the moment of what's going on here. So then what you do is you click Merge. So I'm going to click Merge and watch it go. Okay, so this is our merged shot, and by the way, this is a really cool thing that Lightroom does, and it's harder to do. You can do it in Photoshop, but it's a lot harder in Photoshop. And I just want to show you the detail that you will get out of this kind of an image. Look at the detail. This is shot at f8, and look at the detail in the mountains. I'll scroll down into the trees. You can see the kind of detail I've got. And I was probably shooting, I don't know, maybe a mile away, something like that. Alright, so I've got this image here, and the next thing I'm going to do is take it into Photoshop, because I need to make a few really selected corrections to really bring out this image. Okay, so we have this image opened up in Photoshop, and you can see it's a huge image. It's 31,000 pixels wide, and so like I said, the processing of this will take a while. Why do you take a picture this big? Number one, because you may want to print it this big. I've done panos like this that have printed 6 feet wide, 10 feet wide, and they're really, really impressive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take our magic wand tool and click in the checkerboard area. Okay, I've got a selection of the top area. The next thing I do is click Select, Modify, and I expand it by 2 pixels. So I want to get it overlapping a little bit to grab whatever's out there in the sky and have it get pasted over into the checkerboard area. Okay, so once I've got my selection made, I just hit Shift Delete on my keyboard on my Mac. I think it's Shift Backspace on your PC, or you can go into Edit and Fill, and then it will show you come up and it'll say Content Aware. And I'm going to click OK, and this will this will take a minute because this is a huge image. Okay, so now you see our sky has been filled in, and before I remove the little marching ants, I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit and show you. That's a lens spot there, so we'll have to fix that. But look at this when I remove the marching ants. You cannot see the difference. The next thing I'm going to do is do the same thing with the bottom part of the image. I'm going to click on the checkerboards, get the selection made, click select, modify, expand by 2 pixels. I've done that, and then I'm going to do my content aware again. Okay, and we are finishing up on our fill right here, our content aware fill. Again, I stopped recording while it was doing this, but it took probably about 2 minutes to do the bottom portion, maybe 3 or 4 to do the top. And again, you can see the detail I get in the bottom area. The next thing I'm going to do is probably just do a slight crop, just to bring it down a little bit and bring it up a little bit. And I want it right down below that tree, and I'll bring it in just a little bit. There we go. I'll press enter, and there we go. Typically what I will do during this process is also do a save as a large Photoshop document. So I'm going to do that now. I click File, Save As, Large Photoshop Document. It already knows that. Okay, so our saving is complete. It's a 1.5 gig document right now, and I think that we should be able to get everything done that we want to get done. The first thing I want to do is address the sky. So I'm going to get my quick selection tool here and make it a little larger. I press the right bracket key on the keyboard, and I'll just make a real kind of rough and dirty selection. Photoshop has to stop and think about it for a few minutes. That's okay. And this is when Photoshop's tools really come in to help you. Topaz has a masking tool as well, but I've found that Photoshop does a little bit better job of masking and selection creation than Topaz does. So let's click on the Select and Mask tool. So everything that is in red is not selected, and all I'm going to do, move that over there for a moment, I need to go over here and just place my cursor, the plus. This is where I'm going to add areas that are not selected, and I'm just going to paint with this cursor along here and just get all those branches of this tree. I don't want them selected, but I do want the sky. So I'm just kind of painting. I'm holding down the mouse button and continue to paint. And again, once you let up, Photoshop wants to think for a minute, and then it will come back and you can get going again. Again, so all I'm doing is painting here, and it will paint in the branches. It will take out the sky and leave that in your main selection. And then we'll make a few other adjustments once we've figured out how everything looks. Because this is very, very, very high level stuff. It's tough work. It really is. I'm here to tell you that this is hard stuff to get it exactly right when you don't want to select the trees, but you do want to select the sky, and then you've got these other things going on where you have color fringes and things like that, and it can get very difficult and very frustrating. So you just kind of have to learn to practice it and work through it. And I do this all the time, and I've found that sometimes I just have to go back and do it again because it's not 100% perfect. And I can tell you right now, I can see areas in here that are not exactly the way I want them to be. Again, huge document, 30,500 pixels wide, and I'm going to zoom in and just see what I've got left. Looks like it's not actually too bad. Not bad at all. So now I need to go over here I'm going to make my cursor a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to paint along the tree line and get a really nice edge. We'll get those guys, get these guys taken care of. There we go, I got that cleaned up. I noticed that before and I hadn't fixed it yet. Again, every time I let the mouse up, that tells Photoshop, okay, you can go ahead and calculate, you can go ahead and figure things out and make your adjustments. And then as we do that, I will go on. And you can see I've got a pretty powerful computer, but this is just plain taking a while. So just kind of have to work through it. Okay, now that we've got that detail stuff done, I can just kind of zip along the tree line of the mountain, and it should go pretty quickly from here. I just noticed a couple of areas in those other trees that I missed, so I'll go back and fix those here in just a moment. Okay, and I just noticed a few areas over here that I wanted to fix, and I just clicked down on like a branch, because what I don't want selected is the sky, or what I do want selected is the sky. I want the branches deselected. So again, just a lot of fine-tune work here. It will turn out really nice in the end. And again, if your intention is to print this, 6 feet wide or whatever, that's the kind of detail work you're going to want, because it will show up in your print if you don't. So all of this work we're doing here is just to make the selection of the sky. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to bring out the drama of the sky. The sky was very dramatic that day, and I want to bring out more of the drama than even the 3 pictures that we bracketed and blended together was able to capture. So now I'm going to click OK here, and it's going to go back in to Photoshop. And you can see all the marching ants are around our selection. So that's pretty cool. The next thing I'm going to do is click on Select, Save Selection, and just name it. I'll just call it Sky. And I can reload that if I want to. So now I've got this selection saved. If I need to do something with it, I can do. Okay, so now I'm going to click on an adjustment layer. I'm going to click the button down here, and I'm going to bring in this tool called Curves. And Curves helps you manage the darks and the lights and the mid-ranges. And one thing I always like to experiment first with is bring the ends into where the data is. So if I bring this left end in over, watch our selection. See that? It's getting darker. So I'm actually bringing the darks back to the point where the data begins. Now you can't do this too far. If I bring it too far, that's going to be like, ooh, wow. But if I leave it like right there, that's pretty good. This end is good where it is. So I've got the highs and the lows managed exactly where they need to be. Now I can grab this line and I can pull it down if I want to for the darker darks, and I can pull it up for the lighter lights. And that's probably a really good place for it right there. So next thing I'm gonna do is just click Save, because I want to save this file. Okay, so my save is complete now, and the next thing I want to do is address my foreground, my trees. I have some work to do on the mountains. It looks just a little bit hazy, and I want a little bit more crisp, clear mountains. So the first thing I'm going to do is just work on the foreground. And the way I do that is I click my main layer, I click Select, load selection, and I load the selection that I had saved earlier that I had said was sky. Okay, so I've already worked on sky, but we know in Photoshop you can click select inverse, and now you'll notice that my selection is all about the foreground, except I don't want to include the mountains. So all I do is take my quick selection tool, I hit Option or Alt on the keyboard, and I'm going to paint down here and just take those out. Looks like I went a little bit too far, which is no big deal. I can just kind of add a little bit more back in. This is all part of the process. And actually, I think what I'll do is I'll just use my lasso tool, and I'll hit the Shift button and just add to that selection right over there like that, and there we go. So that should be pretty good. So the next thing I want to do is click up here. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to make this a smart object. And what that does in Photoshop is it allows me to make multiple changes to the layer and go back and change them if I want to. Because normally in Photoshop, when you make a change to a layer, it's there. But if you make it into a smart object, then you can go back and make changes to it. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get further along. Okay, so I have now made this layer a smart object, and what I'm going to do is click on Filter. Oops, let me highlight the layer first. Click Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Now this is the same tool that you'll see in Lightroom in the Develop module. It's the same tool that you'll see in Adobe Camera Raw. This is one of the most powerful tools in Photoshop, and it's one that I use all the time for working up images. Okay, so you'll notice real quickly that you won't see the sky the way we had done it before, and that's because that layer is actually over this layer. And you'll see changes in everything, but we've already masked through those. So the first thing I want to do is I would like to bring up the shadows and the blacks a little bit, just to make it a little bit brighter of an image. I want to take the haze out just a titch. I want a little bit sharper. I use texture, and that should probably take care of it. I'm going to click OK. Again, we go back. You see the sky is the way we already made the sky. The filter's working on getting its work done, and you should see a little bit brighter. Okay, so there we go. So now it's a little bit brighter. This is kind of how it looked that day, because it had been raining and snowing most of the morning at this location, and so I wanted to make sure we brought that into the picture. The next thing I want to do is just click on this selection again. I'm going to go up here and do another curves adjustment just on this selection. And if I drag the brights over, look at what happens. Look at this. And then if I just bring these darks down just a little bit, okay, that's pretty vibrant right there. That looks great. And we have not increased the saturation at all. So that's one of the key things in Photoshop. You don't really want to use the saturation tool that much. You want to use these other tools that are available. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a selection of the mountains. Okay, so now that I have my selection made on the mountains, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to make another adjustment. This one is called levels. It really works with the lights and the darks, and I'm just going to move the mid-range over here. That's not what I want. There we go. There we go. That's exactly what I want. That's exactly the way it looked. And now I can see the whole picture here. And I can see that my yellows and my greens are actually just a little bit too vibrant. Here's how they started out kind of flat. Here's how they are now. So I'm going to go into curves again. This is a great thing. I can go in here and make, I can adjust it back if I want to. So I'm going to move it up just a little bit, like that. And I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so before we save this, I still want you to see the detail in the image, and where you can really see it is over here in these trees. Look at how the mask that we made really did a nice job of separating the trees from the skyline. And we've got great colors here. We should be able to go in and see the tree trunks of the aspen trees. Okay, this is 100%. Look how that image looks. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Okay. Okay, so here is the before and after shot. On the top is the pano as we just finished pasting it together. And on the bottom is the pano as we finished working it through in Photoshop. And I think the ending is pretty dramatic. So thanks for watching. Hope you'll come back again and see some other things that we've put together. Thank you. A panorama is just an easy setup. You take your camera and turn it on its side and attach it to your tripod. There's another tool called a nodal slide you can use to attach it to kind of center the nodal point of the lens, but that's another tutorial. So turn it on its side, attach it to a tripod, and then take single shots, overlapping each shot about 25%. Now, if you want to really get all the detail, do an HDR bracket shot. So you're bracketing 2 stops below and 2 stops over your normal bracketed shot. So for example, this shot here was shot at ISO 100 at f8 for 1/20th of a second. So that's my mid-range shot, and we'll use that across the board for this pano. I set up my camera to auto bracket, so it automatically did the bracketing, and then so I'd press the shutter or the cable release, and then I'd get 3 clicks. I'd move my my camera over so it overlapped that scene by 25%. 3 more clicks, move the camera, 3 more clicks. Again, this is why it's really, really important to be on a tripod.